Welcome, everyone, to the next edition of Common Ground Conversations. I'm Dr. Bonnie Nussbaum, America's kick-ass coach and psychologist, and
I'm Dr. JoNeil Conley. I'm a coach, I'm a nurse, and I'm a bullyologist. And
there we
I
go.
have so enjoyed our time together, Bonnie, and what we've been able to sort of like present out there to the world. So thank you for this.
Hopefully, yes, hopefully giving people things to not just chew on, but have conversations about with other people, and especially with other people who may not agree with you.
And those,
Yeah.
yes. And it sometimes has nothing, you and I both started this because it was around Thanksgiving and there was all the political stuff going on. But I think
Mhm.
as we've had these conversations and people have reached out and they said, hey, that's not just politics that we don't get along. There's
Mhm.
step parents and step this and family dynamics and all kinds of things that cause people to shut down. And I guess that's the word I'm going to use. There's another one you want to, but it it I believe they put up walls, and I'm entitled to my wall, and don't come over it, and I'm not going over to your side of the wall.
And I think the reason that we create the walls is because we really don't do a great job of teaching kids
Hmm.
empathy, understanding how to communicate about things that are difficult. We don't get the skill set oftentimes until college, and sometimes not even then. And so oftentimes I will hear people say, I have no idea how to address this. I don't know what to do with this.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't know if that's generationally been diluted over the last couple generations. I'm not sure. But I think even in my generation, it was you and I have talked about this Midwest nice. And you
Midwest nice will kill you.
it
Yeah.
will. And don't rock the boat and all of those kind of,
Yes. And if you can't say something nice, don't say
oh,
something at all.
for sure, for sure, for sure.
Yeah.
And so, what we want to have a tiny little discussion today is life is messy. It just
Mhm.
is.
Mhm.
And we tend to think, oh my God, I'm broken. I should have done better. I should. And sometimes it's just the mess.
Yes. And I think we oftentimes tell ourselves and tell others, well, when this happens, then I'll be happy. Or when
Yeah.
that happens, when I lose 10 pounds, then I'll be happy. When I get a new job, then I'll be happy. When he quits drinking, I'll be happy. And it's always postponed.
Hmm.
And it never then is allowed to arrive.
Correct. Correct. Because my husband has this pendulum theory about we go here, we get to the middle, we go here. But I believe that it's the journey. It's the journey
Hmm.
of getting there. But we always think it's the destination. And I think if you're always
Right.
stuck on the destination, you're not in the moment. And I've said this 1,000 times, doing the work. Because it's not easy.
No. And we came here to learn things.
Yeah.
We're not just walking this earth for no reason. We came here to learn things and to be our true selves, not some Stepford wife that, okay, what's called for me, so that's what I'll do.
Yeah.
And when we have what I call the shit color glasses on, all we can see is shit.
Hmm.
And the news media certainly
Oh.
plays to us seeing shit. Crap sells. So we need to change our lenses.
Hmm.
And that doesn't mean rose-colored glasses. Just clear is good,
Yeah. Yeah.
looking for the good stuff,
Yeah.
even
And
even in the hard stuff.
that's the point we were just talking about. Back up. Why is it, do you suppose, the news wants to keep us in that shit
It
colored glasses?
it sells.
Yeah.
It sells. I mean, follow the money.
Hmm.
Follow the money. If you uh, even look, and I see kind of a reverse thing on Facebook sometimes, where if you post a lot of the heavy stuff, pretty soon people are so numb they don't respond to your stuff at all. And
Oh,
then if you go, hey, look at the cute bunny, all of a sudden you get a zillion likes. It's like
yeah.
they need the breath of fresh air. They need some relief
Oh,
from all of this heaviness.
and that's that mess we've been talking about. And while there are things that are tragic, and there are things that are difficult, and there are all of those kind of things, and myself nor you would ever minimize those
Correct.
events in people's lives. We would
Correct.
we would never do that. And my contention is nobody's life is spared. Everybody gets some of that at some point in time. And if you stay in the mess, you're never able to see what might be the miracle that comes from that, or might be what comes out of it.
And if you as a coach, oftentimes when someone comes with something very dire,
Hmm.
my husband just filed for divorce on me, or I just got canned at work,
Yeah.
or I just had this major car accident, my car is totaled.
Yes.
Sometimes if I know the person well enough, I've been cheeky enough to say, "Congratulations." And they're like, "What are you talking about?" And within a year, usually,
Yeah.
they're in a much better circumstance.
Yeah.
I think sometimes when we are unwilling to see the beauty in life and we settle for mediocrity,
Hmm.
the universe goes, "Oh no, oh no." So I'm going to put a stick of dynamite under you and boom, blow up
Hmm.
your life. And now here's your opportunity to see that life can be better. You don't have to settle.
And how often do people think I'm broken? I'm the one responsible for this, and if only I had, or
Yeah,
because
what's wrong with me that this keeps happening?
and I can say I've been guilty. Absolutely.
Hmm.
Absolutely. And I think you and I would both say we're not broken.
No,
We're
no.
not broken. We're not broken. It's
And we can be very strong in the broken places. Think about a broken
oh
bone.
yeah.
When you break a bone, the area above and below that break can be more vulnerable, but the area what that was broken usually ends up
Hmm.
welded pretty well together.
Yeah. I'm gonna take a diversion for just a second. I'm gonna tell you something that I've been noticing that I'm having to work on right now. Always
Go
like,
for it.
so I had breast cancer 34 years ago. I think I've shared that. And my life was chaotic at the time. My husband had just gotten back from prison and finishing my bachelor's degree and a 3-year-old and all of this. And my schedule was chemo on Monday, sleep on Tuesday, study on Wednesday, class on Thursday, and work every Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And I just pulled it together and I did it. So over the last little while on TikTok, I've been watching these people about, oh my God, I have breast cancer and I want to go suck it up. And it's like, that's not the right thing to say. And
Mhm,
isn't that how
mhm.
oftentimes we judge what's happening with other people by what we had to or did or whatever? And so,
Mhm.
like I said, I am going, don't Neil, that's not that. I'm really having to do that self
Yes.
reflection and say
Yes.
everybody don't judge them by what you had to do to survive or
Well,
whatever.
and also let's take a look at the had to do's
Yeah.
because there's so much of that. My sister and I, we've got a pattern where it's call up, do the litany of everything you did in the day and the strife and the difficulty and all the stuff. And I finally said to her, "This is addictive. This is not healthy for us to be doing this. Let's talk about," and we've talked about, can a Nussbaum even go and sit in a lawn chair for a while?
Yeah.
Could we possibly even do that?
Hmm.
We need to take a look at these fundamental beliefs that we soaked up. I have to do, it's mine to fix, all the
All the thing.
things,
Yeah.
all the
Yeah.
things.
But I like I said, I've caught myself
Hmm.
thinking, oh, you little wuss, just
Right.
it's like,
Because
no.
because that, and if we look back, that is how you chose to do it. And I'll get the bristle from people on that. No, I didn't have a
Uh,
choice. I had to do it, blah, blah, blah. It was still a choice.
there's always a choice. And
Always a choice.
I always say it might be painful, expensive, difficult, a pain in the ass, and there's a whole lot of qualifiers you can put around it, but there is
It's
a
still a
choice. There's
choice,
still
right?
a choice.
Because you could have curled up into a little ball, crawled into bed, not done anything, blah, blah, blah. Somehow things would have gotten figured out, but that wasn't a choice you chose to make.
Exactly, exactly. And so I think it goes back to this finding the miracles in the mess because that mess was happening in my
Right,
life. And
right.
and these other people that I'm watching, that is there now. It is not my place to judge.
Mhm.
And that I think this gets us to this the conversations kind of a thing because we have this
Yes.
tendency to be pick yourself up and dust yourself off, and that was not that was what I chose to do, and that
Right.
other person is choosing to do something different, and it's not my place.
No, no. To take their inventory.
No.
And even if you've walked the path
Mm-hmm.
of breast cancer, not everybody's going to walk that path the same. And
Mm-mm.
who are we to judge someone else's walking of their path? And that was something that I had to come around to with regard to alcoholism.
Mm.
That was one in my mind that I had to work through that, Bonnie, maybe this person going through alcoholism and not getting into recovery and not changing the behavior is precisely the path they need to walk to learn what they're here to learn.
Ta-da, as Kennedy would say. Ta-da. Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
And I think the message is for us, as we think about these conversations, I'm sure there are people that would say, well, how come you're doing this? It's not that conversation needs to be in the right context, with the right meaning, with the right, all of that. Because I know for a fact, it's, I am no better than anybody else, but it would come across, look at me, I'm better than you. Look at, I did all these sort of things. And that will shut down a conversation quicker than anything.
Absolutely so. And there's a great book by Shonda Rhimes
Hmm.
called The Year of Yes.
Oh, yes.
And
Uh-huh. I've seen that.
yes. And there was a part in there where a mom was lamenting her struggles as a mom. And this was before Shonda was a mom. And Shonda flipped off some kind of a
Yeah.
flippant statement, and the woman was just crushed. It actually ended their friendship. But what Shonda said was, mom down. Okay, basically, I screwed up there. I did not do anything that was helpful for that person
Oh,
struggling with that thing at that time. And we're not walking in anybody else's shoes. So we
no,
don't know the whole story.
no.
We
You know,
don't.
wasn't that song? No one knows what goes on behind closed door.
Exactly.
Whatever that,
Exactly.
none of us know.
Exactly. So wouldn't it be helpful if we each chose to find the miracles in the mundane and the
Sure.
miracles in the difficulties?
Yes. Yes. And I think you said something really crucial a few minutes ago was time. And that goes back to that fight flight. If you are in, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, if you are in survival, you have no capacity to be thinking of higher level
Wait, yeah. Yeah,
things.
you're not thinking self-actualization when you're struggling to put food on the table, have shelter,
Hmm.
not get beat up, blah, blah,
Hmm.
blah.
So it's interesting. So over the weekend, I was working with my daughter, and she has had a whole bunch of stuff happen in her life. And so we were talking about this messes and miracles. So I took a flip chart, and I love me a flip chart. I was writing down all these things, and I knew what some of her early messes were. She was an NICU baby. She was this, she was that when 3 years old. And then I said, what sort of things? So she listed a whole list of things that she had been through. And I said, okay, what were the miracles? And I'm telling you what, 4 times she went, I learned to advocate for me. I learned to advocate for others. All these different, I learned to advocate for my child. I said, looks like we got a theme going on, going
Hmm.
on here.
Hmm.
But I think, go ahead.
And with regard to that, if you find the same things repeating in your life over and over and over and over and over again, maybe that's time to take the step back and go, okay, what am I not picking up on
Yeah,
yet?
yeah, yeah.
What am I not appreciating, valuing, learning, um, etc. from this that it continues to repeat?
Hmm. Hmm. And these happen to be different life events, but her response was really, I thought, this is my kid, the social worker, my kid that works with autism, my kid that does all these sort of things. I said, And she has not been able to see her gifts. Maybe that's the message that was
Mhm.
coming along with this too, that she does have a gift for that. And she has had
Mhm.
opportunities in her life that she didn't even put into perspective. They were just this thing
Right.
happened and I had to do this and this thing
Mhm.
happened.
Mhm.
And that's where I think if we can slow down, and I always say life always makes sense when you're looking in the rear view mirror.
Mhm.
But I would challenge folks to, and even do a 7-year cycle or a 9-year cycle of these things that sort of repeat, but
Mhm.
actually to reflect on, is there a theme? Is
Right.
there something that the universe is smacking me upside the head about?
Yes. What could I learn about this? If I quit being so angry about this happening over and over, what could I learn from
Hmm.
this?
Hmm. And as it relates to conversation, or that we can bring it back to our conversations, is that common ground conversations, is that sometimes we don't take the time to give the other person the grace that
Mhm.
we don't know what's going on with them.
Mhm.
We don't have a clue. And if we're dead set on our position and what
Mhm.
was going on, and I did it, so could you. We are.
Well, and she didn't want to hear a word I had to say. She didn't care what my advice was. Did she ask for your advice?
Hmm. Hmm.
No, sometimes people just need to vent. And if you're willing to be a sounding board and hold space for someone to just do their dump job,
Hmm.
oftentimes towards the end of that, they'll already start circling themselves around. Well, but I also know blah, 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 or, and yet.
Yeah. Well, and I've started saying, like, somebody comes to me, I go, do you want me to hear or do you want me to help? I need to know so I can put that.
Mhm.
And I think that's crucial because if I'm in my
Yes,
rescuer mode, I'm going to hear it. I'm going to pay attention to what can I do? What can I do? If I'm just,
right. You can
if
hear it
the,
differently.
yep. And if the person is only looking to vent or to do those
Hmm.
kind of,
Hmm.
those, that piece of the work, I think we as listeners have that responsibility.
And then I think sometimes for people, they struggle with, okay, so I did a good job of that listening. Now what do I do with this thing? So it can be
Mm,
maybe memorizing a couple of pat
yeah.
lines, like, okay, I hope I held big space for you, or let's see how this unfolds,
Yeah.
or some kind of a comment that lets them know you've held space for them and you're not going to flip into advice giving and all that stuff. It may feel incomplete to you as they walk away.
Yes. And if they have not been clear, if they are dumping something with the expectation that you're going to give them suggestions and solutions and all of that's why to me, it's so important to do that right up front. Um,
Hmm.
but yeah, the rescuers in the crowd will go, well, yeah, but I need to. No, yeah.
No, no, no. And especially not with your own children.
Yes.
So my daughter has gotten so good. She's 32 now. She has gotten so good at saying, Mom, I just need you to listen to me. No
Mhm.
advice. Rock on. I can do that.
Bingo, bingo. So, how do you think this applies to where we are right now, which is what we always have been kind of bringing? Where are we at in the world, and where are we at with,
Oh my
you know,
goodness.
there's so much.
There is so much, and there's so much vitriol and blaming. And you can see, I mean, this is too weak a word, but holy cow, conversations many times these days are pretty dissatisfying.
Hmm.
So I believe if we could take the magic wand, it's over there somewhere,
Yeah.
and go poof, and everybody would become a really good listener, our world would change.
Hmm.
Our world would change. And so we can do our pieces. And when we're willing to, I think, share also, I was talking to a mom today and was explaining to her that it's less about what you're saying to your kid, it's more about what you're modeling. You
Uh-huh.
know, if you're talking to him about taking good care of himself and you're not taking good care of yourself, actions speak louder than words.
Hmm.
So, whatever piece you can do with any of this, if you become a better listener, if you begin looking for your miracles in your life and sharing them with somebody.
Yeah.
You know what I just realized? I'm 5 years post divorce, and what I learned out of that really horrible time in my life was how to speak up for myself,
Mhm.
how not to tolerate less than good, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Tell the story.
Yes.
Use that story. We need more storytellers right now.
Hmm. Hmm. And it can come up in places you don't even expect. The other day,
Hmm.
I had met a gal and connect. Blah, 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 blah. She had worked at a garden center. She wanted to do some gardening on the side, and I needed somebody to help, and yada yada yada. So we're throwing around mulch in my yard, and an opportunity comes up where she starts on her thoughts and processes and all of that. And very gently listened, and we had the most excellent conversation, which over mulch that we may not have had. But you'd be surprised. I didn't have any expectation that we were going to get into this deep philosophical, political stuff, and it just sort of evolved into that. And I consciously said, I could just walk away from this and say, let's just keep doing mulch. Or I could gently open the door and say, tell me more, kind of a thing. And
Hmm.
I think
Hmm.
we have that opportunity. We didn't, and she had no idea where I kind of had a thought where she was, and she had no idea where I was coming from. But she was surprised when she found out who I was, and that we
Hmm.
could sit here and we could talk over iced
Hmm.
tea after we mulch, kind of a thing.
Yep.
And I thought,
And
okay,
again, really getting to know people in
yeah.
that way. I mean, because when we box people in with labels,
Hmm.
we do everyone a disservice.
Yeah,
You know, I've often said that whatever label you put on somebody, anybody who falls into that category of that label, there's probably more vast differences there than between that person with the label and someone without the label.
sure, sure,
Hmm.
sure. So, as we bring this conversation to a close, and just to let our listeners know, Bonnie's going on vacation for 2 weeks. I'm going on vacation for 2 weeks. We didn't realize this, but it's the same two
Same
weeks.
time.
So, you may not hear from us for a couple weeks, but when we come back, we shall be refreshed in thoughts and all the,
And we should have some interesting things to talk about, I would
you
think. Very
know,
cool.
again, thanks to our subscribers. If you haven't done so, subscribe and
Yes, and we really hope that so our call to action is
yes,
please leave this conversation going to look for your miracles.
yes.
Think back on some of the most difficult times in your life. What did you gain from those things? What are your miracles? And how are you going to look for your miracles moving forward?
Absolutely. Well, thank you. Mwah.
Bye.